Okay, I'm recording.
Are you ready for me to kick it off?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to a very special episode of Cosmic Road, where we are joined once again by Anita Okonen, and we are going to have a very interesting remote viewing target today. So, welcome to the show, Anita.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah, this is exciting, guys. Okay, so the way this works is that I come up with a target and write out a tasking, and then I generate an eight-digit random number. I use a random number generator to generate an eight-number sequence that I mentally link with that tasking, and then I send Anita the eight-number sequence. That's all she sees is that eight-number sequence. She has no idea what the tasking is other than what she's able to view herself. In this particular tasking is the Phoenix Lights. So let me read you the wording of my tasking. View the giant UFO that flew over Phoenix, Arizona on March 13th, 1997. Describe the occupants and their motivation for flying over the city. And the reason I worded it that way is because it's actually a much more complicated event or series of events, actually a multi-night event. I didn't use any pictures for this one because on one of those nights there was actually a flare drop. And there are actually pictures that look kind of like the Phoenix Lights, but it's actually flares. So I didn't want to use the wrong image and have her view some flares. Uh, and I worded it just specifically over the city of Phoenix, even though the giant craft flew over the whole state and beyond. And there's even some evidence that there may have been some other large craft as well. But anyway, so I wanted to narrow it down to focus it just on Phoenix, just on that one night, the main night in question. So without any further ado, take it away, Anita.
All right. So let me share my screen here. We have text report. We have drawings. Should be it. All right. You're looking at my text report, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So I also want to mention, as always, both Jack and I know ahead of time that we are doing a UFO, aliens, and mystery series. So even though I'm blind to the target, I don't know what the target is. My mind can expect UFO, alien, or mystery. That's important to know. So it's a
Sure,
little
but
bit
just
front loading.
not to interrupt, but like in the Mount Adams episode we just did,
Yeah.
even though you might have been expecting a UFO target, you weren't seeing UFOs. You were
No, I
seeing the
saw
mountain.
the mountain and the forest
Yeah.
and the bears. So this session I have written a lot. This is a fun one. I had a blast because I ran into an interesting military officer and he can't stop talking to me and bothering me because I'm trying to inspect the facility. So,
What? Okay, I
yeah.
can't wait to get into that.
Oh, yeah. So let's read the summary. So here's my full text report, all my notes, lots of conversations you see with quotation marks.
Oh,
And
and by the way, Anita sent me her data about an hour ago, and then I told her what the tasking was. She didn't have any idea what the tasking was until after she had sent me her data.
right. So let's just read the summary. The summary, unfortunately, is long because I spent so much time and put a lot of it. I looked very carefully at everything this time. So, summary before feedback. The main element is an object. The outside of the object appears to be a light blue color and is somewhat bowl shaped. The object has a top cover that has been placed on top of it. The top cover bulges upward, forming a sealed object of an almost round shape. On the outside of the object, there are several long rectangular flat boards attached to it. There is also a V-shaped structure attached to the outside of the object, which forms two curved legs. The object can be placed on the ground such that it is a bit above the floor and is resting on those legs. so that the legs make contact with the ground beneath it. Underneath the object on the outside, there is a large system of slowly rotating, wide rotor blades. The device is not allowed to get wet. Water would damage the acclimatization fuse. See, a lot of Arby's just pulling all these technical terms. There is an interior space inside the device. There is a large building in a big modern city. This building is a weapons and missiles facility. It has a large entrance hall where we see a balcony on one floor up. The balcony is facing into the entrance hall area. There is a large operating theater, which is either inside this building or otherwise inside our device. In this operating theater, there are several barrels containing a toxic substance, which can be used as a chemical weapon against enemy life forms, presumably humans. The operating theater spans across 2 floors, meaning ground floor and the floor above it, so it has a very high ceiling. Operating theater spans across 2 floors. The doors in the operating theater are all locked, and there is no way to get out from there. The rotating blades that are underneath the device are directly underneath the operating theater floor, and the entire operating theater floor is turning around, making it seem that this room is contained within the device. On the first floor up, there is a window which looks down into the operating theater, which spans from the 1 floor below and up to this floor with height to the ceiling. There is a large welcome or reception hall area, which has 1 wall that has lots of windows facing to the city landscape and some green leafy trees. This reception area has lots of sofas and some tables. The operating theater has also been seen at one time with lots of small red chairs that look like dining room chairs in rows and lines, and a stage on the front of the room, and music is always heard playing in this operating theater as well as when it was seen with the chairs and the stage at the front. The doors to this operating theater are the kind of large push doors with a horizontal bar on the outside side. The main life form is a human who is very tall. He has unusually long legs. His face is long and narrow and has many vertical lines across the face. He has short brown hair. The hair is not flat against the head but stands out a bit. He has a tall pointy hat which looks like a military officer's hat. He is a very angry type of personality. He has an office here where he sits by the desk and assembles a small modeling template of our main object, either a smaller version of it or the actual object itself. His job is to assemble pieces together into structures. We find many booklets in his office with clear instructions on how to assemble parts to build a structure. At one time, we find our main object out on a meadow on the countryside, and the man is there to see it. There are a lot of black mountains in the area, as well as some green land and bright green large leafy tree forests, some villages and settlements where people live, and the area which has our main building. We see heavily trafficked roads with cars. We also find our man driving in a car in that traffic. There is a tunnel which leads down underground, where we find a staircase that leads up directly into our building. The city has modern buildings that appear dark and tall, with many floors and windows, and looks like a large city. The main emphasis of this target is on the device, as well as that the man has assembled the device. So let's take a breather there. So let's open the first drawing. So clearly the target is showing me that the main element is object, not life form, not place, not building. And do you want to say anything before we look at the pictures?
Well, I'm just really curious where it goes. I mean, yeah, so you're seeing this weird device in this warehouse structure and this guy that builds stuff.
Yes.
But you feel this is on target with the Phoenix Lights.
I feel so, yes. With my 6 years of remote viewing experience, I feel that, yes.
Okay. All right.
So
Well, we'll keep going. I can't wait to see where it goes.
just a question. When you wrote the tasking to go to the large UFO, which one is the large UFO that you meant?
Are you familiar with the Phoenix Lights incident?
Very little, very little.
Well, there was a giant UFO, like a mile wide UFO, that flew over the city of Phoenix, Arizona,
Um,
back in the 90s on the night of the Hale-Bopp comet, very intentionally, as if uh, waiting for a night when people would be looking up at the sky to see the comet. And then this giant UFO flies over the city and actually the whole state and beyond. Like a very intentional disclosure event from the phenomenon, witnessed by thousands of people, including famous actor Kurt Russell. He was there.
mhm.
He actually called it in, one of the people that called it in.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, a very famous UFO incident with a unambiguously giant UFO. Um,
yeah. Hang on, I have a problem with my with my files here. There we go. Yeah. What shape was the big UFO? The one you
it was
mean?
a V shape. So when you
That's
see,
it. I seen that. There we go. Okay, I thought so. Because after the feedback you sent me, it doesn't really say what shape am I supposed to see. So I looked up some pictures
well,
online, and
just to
I saw
clarify,
the V shape
yeah,
on
just
the
to
internet.
clarify, yeah, in the pictures, in the video, it's hard to get a real good look at it. All you can see are the lights,
Yes,
but they form a V shape.
yes. So all right, so let's just look at my pictures and then go back to the report, and I'll show you the man, the
Yeah, yeah,
military officer who kept talking to me. So the first visual data that I have is this orange. When I get an orange sphere, it means object. It's very blurry. It could have any shape, but it starts as a sphere so that I know it's an object. And then this blackness that I didn't know what it is at first. So that's what I get to work with in the beginning. And I have to start probing them to see, pick them apart and see what's in there, what the details are. So here I've been probing a bit on the black thing and the orange. So what I find initially is the red. This is still very blurry early in the session. The red is a life form. So I do pick a life form element out of the two initial elements. And there is a light or a lamp directly above the object, seen as yellow. And these two boards things attached to this black, and some air moisture is blue above. And very early on, this V shape is starting to, this Phoenix Lights V shape is already now starting to reveal itself in my drawings. You see the black thing. Black thing started like this, and when I start
yeah.
taking it apart and looking for detail, I get early on, I get this branching. So then we get this. So
Yeah.
here I'm
Another,
drawing,
another V shape.
yes, although with those bars connecting to it. But anyway, V shape. Um, and this building, which turned out to be the weapons and missiles facility, I think it was called. Now, here's the funny story, though. This is really cute RV moment. This grumpy man on the bottom, initially, it really looked like it was this man with a gnome hat, a pointy gnome hat. So I'm here thinking, okay, everything seems pretty normal here, but this man's wearing a big gnome hat and he's really serious and grumpy. And, you would take this kind of personality seriously. And gnome hat, okay, it was really cringe and embarrassing to write it down into my report text and to draw it. But why is, like, I'm just imagining the whole world telling me, why are you seeing a gnome? That's so crazy. It can't be a gnome hat. There's gonna be a it's gonna turn out to be something else on the next
Is
picture.
this the same guy that you were seeing earlier? the builder guy in the
Yeah,
building?
this turns out these both drawings are the same man, and they
Okay.
are the military, turn out to be the military officer who assembles devices in the missiles and weapons and missiles facility. So next drawing. So here you see this hat has the pointy on the front. So I was so relieved and excited when I continued to probe on this man to see more detail. And I see this hat. And I understood right away that the reason why initially it looked like a gnome hat, which is really embarrassing for me to have to report something like that. Like, why would you see a gnome, a mammoth? But it turns out it's just a pointed top on this military officer's hat. And somehow this point showed first. So
Makes sense.
yeah, so it turns out he's wearing this military officer's hat, and I have quite a lot of detail with the on the hat, and also seen that he wears like a business suit kind of uniform, not camouflage. He has the dress pants, and he has like a suit and tie. So he's very formally dressed in a military officer's uniform. And in the landscape, I have a lot of black mountains. Now, the landscape does not seem to me like Arizona and desert, and there was green grass and meadows. And I don't know if the city that I had also, if it's in Arizona or if I'm being shown the origin, because I'm being shown when this device is being assembled. So I kind of have a feeling that it would have been assembled somewhere else.
Makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, it's always nicer when you get, because I go at some point in my remote viewing sessions, I like to go high up into the sky and look down and look all around from way high up there. It's really cool. It's really like flying. It's so awesome.
See, now you're selling me on remote viewing. I like
Oh,
that. Yeah, that's neat.
you have to. Well, CRV and the other most popular methods, they don't do this. They just doodle on a paper. They don't have these integrative visual color experiences like I have. But I
It
will
sounds
teach,
like your process is the way to go. Yeah, yeah.
I think ERV remote viewing, it's another method, extended remote viewing. I think they have very visual experiences. So if you like the flying in the sky part, you could look into learning some ERV
Okay. Okay.
method. So I see black mountains. I see all these leafy tree forests and some villages. So that and green, the ground is green and not sand. I think Arizona would be sand. And I think the air was also a bit cold, not the heat of a desert. But we'll see. So that's what the area. It's always nice when you go in the sky and the area that the target has taken you to directly ties you to the expected area. Like here we would expect and want Arizona.
Well, I want to say there were some mountains.
Yeah.
And and that area, Phoenix may be higher in elevation.
Right.
In that part of the country, it's been a long time since I've been to Phoenix, but
Yeah.
I remember when you're driving around in that part of the country, the differences in elevation make a huge difference. When you go up higher, it gets greener. When you're lower, it's
Mm,
sandier. So I don't know. I don't know.
right.
Yeah, I'll let you Phoenix guys let me know in the comments below.
Yeah. Also, for the viewers, here's a question for you. If you look at this hat, can anyone can anyone see from his uniform and know that it has like the formal suit and tie? Is this United States military or from another country? Because he's the one who assembled it, the device. I did this session across 2 whole days. Well, not continuously, of course, but I have spent hours looking at this man in his office, assembling bits, doing the work. Is this a man from United States military or is it from another country? And what branch? Is it Army, Air Force, Navy? And what rank would he have? I would be so interested if this hat provides any clues about, because that could provide clues as to where this Phoenix lights, who made it and where it comes from.
So he was wearing a military style hat, but with a suit
Yeah,
and tie.
yeah.
Interesting.
Don't some military officers also have that kind of a uniform.
I'm
I
not an
think they
expert.
do. I think I've looked at some military uniform pictures before because I really love military are one of my favorite targets because I always wanted to join the army. So I think I've seen that they have like suit and tie uniforms also.
Okay, probably do. Probably do.
You're not a military guy then.
I'm not a military guy, clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So these earlier drawings are weird. They're weird shapes, but you have to respect that it starts out from that.
Hmm.
And this is already better. So the orange again is the initial element. That's how the object initially appears as an orange sphere. It just tells me it's an object and maybe
And
its
are
size.
you thinking the object, the object that this man created, is the mile wide craft?
I think so. From everything put together, it seems so to me.
Okay.
Unless this is a component of it, we'll see. So let's take a look. So here I have again this orange sphere, which means object. It's just so totally blurry. I can't just see it right away, you know? So heat generated spinning motor is interesting. Like, let's just spoiler alert. Let's just break some hearts here. There was zero anything that indicates aliens. There's no extraterrestrial technology in any of this. There are no alien beings. This was a very human thing. So that's going to break a lot of hearts tonight. So I know people want aliens, but once again, no aliens.
No aliens. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, I mean, it is what it is. All right. Uh, I'm still not convinced that this is the mile wide craft, though.
You will be later on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll tell you why. So, um, So here I'm poking into this orange thing, looking for more detail. So it has these extension parts. And again, you see on the left side with the orange, you see on the left side, it again, I'm drawing this split. You see the blue ones. Again, this split shows up, right? We're going to see more of it. That's going to be the V shape. And just some structural components, bits and pieces, metallics, reflective surfaces. And on the right side, it's kind of this tub-shaped thing. And I saw that they would put another cup shape over it, attach it so that it forms a sealed compartment. And the two brown things are, it's not so easy to see, but they are a brown V shape emerging again. And you notice the color is brown this time. And above it is, I think it was some kind of light or lamp, this yellow triangular thing. So here we have more detail. So obviously at this stage, this is the last drawing. So obviously looking at this, it's clear to guess that at this point in my session, I'm thinking it's a UFO target. I had a full visual of the whole craft looks like this. At one point, I saw this thing in this, I think in the sky or just by itself. And I'm looking into, so on the top, we have our main structure. It's no longer orange. I have reduced the blur, which gives it what I call a color anomaly of orange. And it's starting to reveal its actual colors, which surprisingly, the main structure is light blue. Very unusual color for us, for this type of a tech object. And you see these bars extending from it, and the two brown legs under it. It's again the impression of this V-shaped from it. And then on the bottom is the last drawing I made. The last drawing is always the most important. And again, you have this craft type of thing, and now you have a more proper V-shaped with some bend, unfortunately. Maybe the bend is there. So we have this V shape and this craft thing on it. So, and this, I've seen this structure inside the facility, the weapons and missiles facility, which has this reflective floor under it and bright lamps above it. So it was in a room. So what does this all mean? I'm still going to show you I mean, this report is so full of fantastic facts. Anybody who really wants to dive into this UFO should really, anyone who's really wants every bit of detail can just read all these 16 pages. There's so many bits in here.
That's amazing that you were able to get that much information. I'm really impressed that you took the time to do that. That's
Oh yeah.
incredible,
Well,
Anita.
the
Thank you.
the reason why I get this much data is because I start with a blur and I want to reduce the visual blur to a perfectly clear visual. And to get from A to B, I have to do a lot of work, a lot of chiseling and fine tuning and detailed precision work with all kinds of, I have more than 30 different kinds of probe tools in my toolkit that I'm using to just hack and slash at this blurriness to get it to show me clarity, get clearer and clearer so I can see what it is. And as I'm doing that, I'm getting textual data that I can write down. I don't have to write down so much, but some, especially tech targets like this one, there's a lot of data to write because of all the wires and the technical things. There's a lot to say. There's so much engineering inside technical device that I always want to write them down. There's just tons of stuff in here. Like if you have any target target site is composed of 1 million individual bits of data. Everything that's there, everything that moves, every emotion, behavior, activity, component, what goes where, what things mean. There's just so much data available. Now, the target signal that I feel emanating from the number, the target number, it of course tells me what data is the most important and relevant. So it's not like I'm just grabbing everything. I knew that the main object, the object is the main element that I should focus on, as well as the man and watching him assemble bits in the missiles facility. But there's still a lot of stuff. So let's just
I
comb
want to I
through.
want to know more about this guy. Who does he
Oh
work for?
yes.
Who,
Oh,
yeah.
he's fantastic. I had a
Okay,
great
yeah,
time with
yeah, yeah,
him.
oh, yeah, yeah. That's right. You had some contact with him, is that
Oh, I had
right?
massive. I urge everyone who watches to go to my channel because upload, I'm gonna make a video which is illustrated based on the report and the drawings. I'm going to put all the things that he and I said to each other into a text to speech so you can
Oh,
listen.
neat.
So you're going to be able to listen to our conversations. And I'm going to make a text to image so you can see what he looked like. And it's going to get real hysterically funny because in some remote viewing sessions, um, sometimes when you remote view, you have what's called a bilocation, which is when it feels as if you're going into the target site. It's really cool. So for this one, I had partial bilocations. So I was there. I was sitting. That's when, like initially, when you remote view, it's more of a I'm here and I'm just receiving information about somewhere else. It's a very separated process and experience. But as you keep working, you kind of get sucked into the target site. You begin to see the target site with your own body, a copy of your body in it. And instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to probe the floor that's there, you're literally there touching the floor with your hands. Like instead of just saying to myself, probe the floor, flick flick the floor to see how it feels. Instead, you're there and you're just, oh, I'm just going to put my hands on it. Really,
That's so cool. That really is.
for
That's
this
amazing.
for this
Mhm.
one, I was having bilocations, and every time I was like, I found this wire in the weapons facility, and I was touching it because it's still a bit weird and blurry. So I'm trying to probe and feel around on this wire. And this military officer, he was watching me the whole time and he was so mad at me and telling me to, okay, let's read some of what he says. He's really funny. And really go watch the video. I'm going to put it on my channel.
I was
I'm
really
going
impressed by your Mount Adams video. That was amazing.
to, thank
Yeah,
you. It
yeah.
was fun to make and do. Yeah, I'm gonna make a funny video where we talk to each other. You can hear that. Listen, you can listen to our
Yeah,
conversations
yeah,
instead
very
of
cool.
reading them. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be really funny. So the first time, okay, so here, life form associated to orange object. Orange object turns out to be most likely the flying craft thing. I have so much personal information about him. Like probing this man, I found out that he's lazy. He really doesn't like to work. He does as little work as possible, and he always wants to go home. Uh, let's see. Let's just
Totally
look at
valid.
what. Yeah. Let's just look at our conversations. So as I'm touching him, because when I have a person, one of the probes is to just touch and pat around, because I don't really see, it's kind of blur. So one good thing to do when you can't see is to just touch them. Why are you trying to tickle me? He says. He's one of the chattiest life forms I ever had. I'm driving around in my car and I'm going to go home, as this man says. And he actually wanted to give me a job.
As what? Did he know
File
what
clerk.
you as a file clerk? Okay.
Yeah, he wanted me to finish his papers, sorting his papers in his office by 12 o'clock that day.
Now, when you say you talk to him, is he, are you talking to his higher self? Are you talking to some other aspect of his consciousness? Or is he conscious? He's not consciously aware of you, right?
I don't I
Because
don't
this is
know.
going back in time and how does that work?
I don't know how it works. I still live under the assumption that it's just a simulation. It's kind of a what if we would talk? What if I was there? What would he say? Kind of thing. Because sometimes I've also noticed that often life forms are targets. They see me not as I am now, but they interpret me a little bit. For instance, if I remove you back in time, they might see me dressed in clothes of their time period because there's some fluidity and mind to mind going on. It's not, there isn't this strictly physical, factual reality. I have that sense that it's a little bit dreamlike, see? Um, I don't know if they're aware of it, but obviously, if I would manifest into the missiles facility, I don't think that this officer would tell me, would simply offer me a job as a file clerk.
Right, yeah,
He would say,
yeah.
"Who are you? Why are you here?" Or he would ignore me. Sometimes they kind of, it sometimes it seems like it plays along with, they pull me into their sense of reality. Like it would make sense to him if I was there because I was there to do his paperwork. So there's kind of this going into their mind into a dreamlike state where their mind makes some sense, tries to make sense out of me being there, kind of thing. So that in itself makes it a little bit like it's not quite factually correct,
Yeah, I mean, if you
like a
saw
real
somebody manifesting in front of you and you were going to give them a job, it probably wouldn't be as a file clerk,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
It's kind of dreamlike. See, it's kind of a, but 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 I gain a lot of data from these conversations. I
sure,
do.
sure. Well, let's continue on.
Yeah, so when these happen, I do allow them. I usually don't start talking back to them unless later on, but it's a really good way to get bits about someone's personality, their emotions, what they're doing, as well as how they would react. Um, yes, can I help you? Do you want something? He asks me. And also describe the time period correctly. Um, I say it's like a contemporary time. It was like our time, kind of I would have placed it 1990s to now. It wasn't like 1960s colors or 70s or 80s. You can kind of guess the time period from the furniture and colors. So he says, "Get out. I don't want my money." Get out, this place is about to go down. I'm just going to skip some because
Well, so
there's
save
just,
it for your video.
yes. But it's really funny. So what kind of job does gnome man? At this point, I'm still referring to him as the gnome man because the hat was like a gnome's hat, later turned out to be the officer's hat. What kind of job is he thinking about? Something to do with heat, thermodynamics, and aerodynamics. So he was the engineer who I saw him in his office by the desk, and he was assembling small pieces together. And it was either a modeling template of the main object, which turned out to be Phoenix lights, or a part of those. And I found bookshelves in his office, so obviously I went to run my finger across the papers to read. When you are remote view, if you are in the correct relaxed state, maybe you shouldn't do this early in a session, but later on when you're really inside the signal, it's more safe to do it later in session. You can just take your index finger and brush it across the text on the target site, and you can feel I'm not reading word by word, but I can feel what's written there. And it was all about how to see here. And then I write aerodynamics relevance. So like I get this interesting word. I look at what kind of job does this man do? One of the words I get is aerodynamics. So I was interested. That was an interesting word. So then I ask remote viewing, aerodynamics relevance. Like what's the deal with this word? I get how to stay afloat in the air, how to use keys and switches, heat riding air waves, not to collide into other objects, no heat flow transfer. So this man was clearly working on engineering with some very likely with flying things as well. That's what I was also reading then from the manuals. And this is interesting. We could just go through this report for hours. There's so much in here. The man is sitting in kind of a reception lounge area of the weapons facility. Oh, well, I gotta go and read the newspaper. See, this target site took me to 1997. People most definitely read newspapers, but
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
not something anyone would say today. It's very unlikely, very
yeah.
unlikely to read
Right.
a newspaper. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
really
no,
do that.
the very, very good detail, very good way
Yes.
to set the time period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, did you see any headlines? Do you know what was going on in the newspaper?
I didn't read the newspaper. I only read
Okay.
his job, his manuals for assembling technical devices in the office.
Did you
Um,
retain any of that information?
from the manuals.
Yeah.
Oh yes, there's tons. I just need to
Huh.
find it. Okay, let's just see here. He sometimes a live form at a target leaves me alone so I can snoop. This is so cool because when you remote view, once you start to bilocate, which means it's like a ghost, a copy of you is there. You see yourself standing in his office with your feet and you have your hands to work with and you can look around. It's so cool. And you're really in this unknown place because it's a blind target. All I know is I'm in this man's office. And but the thing is, sometimes in my remote viewing, at least, it happens most of the time that life forms, they see me and they approach me. And they're usually angry. They're usually like, how did you get in here into my office? My door was locked. Like, they'll be very angry. So this man was constantly on my case. See, I'm trying to snoop around this. I decided to do a very thorough job. I went everywhere inside the missiles facility, weapons and missiles facility. I wanted to look at all the papers and furniture, all the rooms, lighting, everything. Because I was thinking, okay, it seems I got a UFO target. I did realize that. So I'm thinking I have to be thorough because if it is aliens, we want to know what the ceiling looks like in an alien building. We would want to know what the floor looks like. If this is a
Yeah.
room by aliens, then absolutely all details are interesting. So I was also looking for evidence. Is it aliens or humans? And
But I'd also be very interested in knowing anything about the, the Men in Black, the control group, those guys.
yes, yeah. So I'm there, and this officer, who's like a technician of sorts, engineer, he's strongly connected to the object, which turns out to be the Phoenix Lights. I think he built it. He saw me, so I would be like in his office snooping on his papers, and he shows up right there, and he's angry, like, "What are you doing here? Get out of here!" with his angry face. And also, I would like find a window or something somewhere else in the building I'm looking, and he just shows up again. And so here's the conversation. "What are you trying to see?" he says to me, and he had the angriest face. He was really such a stern man. But someone else might have been scared, but like I said, I always wanted to join the army. So I really love military guys. I had no issue with him being like this, but it was a really interesting personality. And I say, "I'm just looking at your face." So imagine you have this really angry person who will yell at you, and you're not only there and he's going to yell at you, but I'm trying to see his face, and I'm touching his face, and I'm staring at him really close. He didn't like that. And he says, "No, quit doing it. Help, help. I need help here." And I say, "Calm down. Why are you so nervous?" And he says, "I would like to ask you the same," and so forth. So then I say, "Where is this place? Perhaps I am lost." He says, "You are at a research facility." And I say, "What kind of research?" He says, "Mobility machines, mobility units. We don't have anything else here for you. We would like you to leave. We're sorry." "Help, she's looking at me," he says. And then he says, "We put these swivel chairs in." And I say, "Where do you put them?" Like, just so much. And then this is funny. This is funny. He asks me, "Are you getting paid here?" He asks me. He's asking if I'm employed, if I work there in this building. I said, "No, I'm not." He says, "Would you like to be?" I say, "Yes, please. What kind of job do you have for me? I like to act along." He says, "We need your residential papers. Are you aware of that fact? The residence status and the rest of it." He says, "Are you good at listening and hearing?" "I see you are," he says to me. I say, "I guess so, but not really. I tend to be distracted looking around." "So you're not a perfect fit then," he says. And I say, "What job would it be for me?" He says, "Taking notes and stuff." I say, "I could do that." He says, "Well then," and then he laughs and he smiles. This was the only time of 2 times that he smiled. So he wants me to do, see, "I want those filed now." And he yelled really loud.
Was he
It's just,
talking to you?
yeah, he's giving me a job. He wants me to be his file clerk in his office. He wants me to sort his papers by 12 o'clock. He wants it finished by 12 o'clock. So I need this paperwork done today. You could be our filing clerk. It's hilarious. I'm gonna have so much fun making this video. I'm gonna make a text to voice out of all of this and put pictures, and you can
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
I can't wait to
happens.
see it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
did such a
then
did such a great job with the Mount Adams, with the voices and everything. I thought that was awesome.
yeah, it was fun to make. So this funny story, like I'm there and
Yeah, yeah.
this man. But anyway, it just goes on and on because he showed up all the time. When I was trying to probe things, he would just be there yelling, "What are you doing? I told you not to come here," he says. "You are
Oh, hang on.
going
I
to."
see something as ceremonial magic. What is that? Go to the
Oh,
stage of
I
that
know what that
room.
is. I know what that is. I went to this big, I went across from the lounge room, the lounge area, which has sofas where kind of like a reception where people can sit and wait. And across from there is this huge room which had lots of chairs and a stage on the front, and music was always playing. This is in the weapons and missiles facility. So it's kind of a room where maybe they have like some kind of a ceremony or I don't know, presentation.
But you use the words ceremonial
Yes,
magic.
and I know exactly what that is.
Okay.
So I took a course in college, the introductory freshman level course on theater. And one of the terms we had to learn is called ceremonial magic. Now, this is something that humans all across the planet do. It ranges everything from theater to baptism in church by a priest to tribal rituals. Wedding is a ceremonial magic ceremony. So, all these various things that humans do where they make a performance, usually with costumes, something rehearsed, lines, tradition, even ours, weddings, baptisms, medal awarding medals. These are all and theater. This
So
is
it could
all
have been something as simple as a place for awarding medals or something like that.
yes. Ceremonial magic means all of these things that human beings do, which is like a ceremony, and the magic is just what it's called. So when RV told me this, I knew that it referred to this term from
Yeah.
theater studies. Even a wedding is ceremonial magic. A wedding in our Western civilization is exactly the same type of thing as some African tribe doing some kind of ritual with priests and shamans. It's the same phenomenon and it's all called ceremonial magic. So having this
Gotcha. Gotcha.
stage and
Makes sense.
something having, so some kind of ceremonial magic is done. There's some kind of costumes and rituals, even though it's in our Western world, we don't think of it as that, but it is same as shamanism and tribes. We're also a tribe. We're the white Western tribe, or majority white Western tribe of people, and we have same things. So that's the word, yeah.
Makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. Here he says to me, "You are going to go to a cubicle and sort my papers through." So he was chasing me around this facility. I was trying to probe and look at things and study also the main object, which turns out to be our Phoenix Lights structure. He was chasing me around and just about these paperwork.
Anita's like, come on, I'm trying to spy on you and you're trying to give me a job. Come on.
A man with a strange hat, the gnome hat, turns out to be some sort of a military hat. So, things start blurry and then you get more detail. So, what else can we extract from here before we wrap it up? So here I am getting. Okay, so here we have something we could read since we're interested. I've told you about the facility where I believe this object was constructed and by who it was constructed, but we can also look at the structure itself. So the orange element, that is, I believe, the Phoenix light device itself. It has thin reflective blades to the side, spinning motor at those blade extensions. Heat generated near the top of the structure. Spinning rotor near the top of the structure, heat waves emanated. This structure is locked up in a facility, is held in an indoor space, and seems to be on the floor of that room. A wagon cart is next to it. And then
A
it's just good.
wagon cart.
Yeah, some kind of other structure was next to it. Radiation emanation and um, yeah. So I have a lot of technical detail. I was looking at these devices, and most always I saw that the main element device was on the floor in a room inside the weapons and missiles facility, where I think it may have been assembled as well. But there was one time I saw it on the ground on a meadow outside, and our military officer was either there in person or very close by, either really or somehow just there, with his attention. But there was one time I did see it flying in the sky above a city, and the city had skyscrapers. I write about that further down. And I could see out from this flying craft at that point. At that point, I felt like I was inside of this craft that is on the right.
Now,
This shape.
is it possible that that's a different craft than the Delta shaped craft that overflew Phoenix on that night? Because that looks more acorn shaped. Is it possible that there are multiple craft and that you were maybe in a different one?
Well, if you look at the drawing on the bottom, it has this V shape, which I really think I was getting to the V shape of the Phoenix lights with this
Okay,
thing.
okay. I was thinking that was like an occult symbol, but you're right. There's
No,
another
no,
V
that's the
shape.
V shape of the
Okay.
Phoenix. I really think so. When I saw feedback pictures online after the feedback, and I saw the V shape images of the Phoenix light, I just instantly recognized it from my this thing. But it's like a part of this. See, it's like a component on this V shape, a piece of it. So one time I was inside it flying in the sky, but it was very close to the buildings in a big city with like skyscraper buildings. So what is the function of the main object? To block things from happening, to make things. So here we go into what is it I'm probing? What is the purpose and function of it? To block things from happening, to make things not take place, to emanate heat not. So the purpose is not to emanate heat, but it emanates heat anyway, but that is not its purpose. It is not a traveling device. So that could suggest it's not like a vehicle for transport. It's not a keepsake, meaning it's not something that somebody found. It is not mechanic in nature. Here we go again. Do you remember when we had our first UFO target? This was our target number one. It was a resonance chamber, that target. Here we have again, this structure makes a resounding chime. Okay, here we go.
Oh yeah, that was the Tic Tac, and you were
Yes,
getting
yes.
the friction makers and all of that.
Yeah,
That
and
was
there's
wild. Yeah.
resonance chamber. So this structure makes a resounding chime, and it can block people's minds. It makes people think differently, and it can also cause a confusion and chaos in people. I saw it strapped onto a car roof. It is made to be part of another vehicle. So vehicle is at least I'm having at this stage vehicle, which means transportation. So it does start to, and I've seen things about aerodynamics, and I have had it flying as well. It's made to be part of another vehicle. It makes people feel mayhem. So I was seeing that this structure, presumably a component of the Phoenix lights, of the V shape, that it can do some kind of effect on how people feel inside their heads, some kind of an interference to mind, some kind of mind control technology is what I was seeing here.
Hmm. Is that the function or the purpose of this vehicle?
Would be, at least this session indicates that this would be at least one part or aspect of its, at least one part of the function, because I'm probing specifically for the function.
That's alarming.
It is alarming, but then we're maybe a little bit reassured by remembering that it does originate from weapons and missiles facility. I don't know. I mean, that's reassuring.
That's not reassuring, Anita. That's just a weapon that can affect your mind. Go
I
carry
feel
on.
I feel reassured by it because it makes sense. Like if this was just some random structure and it does mind control on populations, it would be weird. But the fact that it's coming from weapons and missiles facility, it's like, yeah, they would build something like that. But it is alarming, especially since you said now after feedback, you were telling us that there was a huge crowd outside to see the comet. So interesting if the military, we don't know from which country yet, if a military sends a flying craft, now that we have a huge gathering of people, to maybe test mind control on them. Is that what happened?
Always possible.
We're going to see more about weapons. I found some chemical weapons inside when I looked inside it. So, function of the wagon. So, the wagon is this thing on the right side. I was calling it a wagon at this time, but it's somehow part of the structurals. It's a supporting device called, it's not really interesting, cooling liquid, details like that. At least these details kind of suggest also that it's not extraterrestrial. There's no aliens here. Here again, this man, the officer, shows up. So here we have. Look at how he talks. Like, it's interesting character. A man who identified himself with as being from the center of intelligence talked to me during the session. And the interesting thing is, especially because I'm not from the USA, I would, if I was imagining this, I could only call it the Center of Intelligence Agency because it's the CIA. I would never abbreviate it. If I had to write an essay, I would always add agency to it. I would never drop a word. I'm very careful with, like, I'm super strict as a person with spelling and everything. I would never misspell or typo anything. I would always add agency. So the fact that he is calling it the Center of Intelligence, dropping the agency, that really bothered the something in my mind. I'm like, you gotta add agency. I almost wanted to tell him, you have to add agency. They're missing the A.
You're saying it wrong.
Typo.
Right.
So that was something that made me really trust this data, even though I already trusted. So this is interesting. So first I was worried, is he talking to me from outside of session? Or is he maybe from inside the target? Because sometimes when I have a session, and somebody in the future who is mildly telepathic, such as a fellow remote viewer, is a good remote viewer, if they're reading my report in the future, it happens that as I'm remote viewing, I will see them in the future as they're watching my report. So they will go into my, because they're focusing on my session, so they're coming in there, and then I see them. So I was thinking, is this man seeing this report, which has weapons and military, is he contacting me from the future? Because he was talking directly to me, so it was a
That's
deliberate attempt at communication. However,
when you say
later,
the future, do you mean now?
anytime, it could be 50 years from now.
Hmm.
Sometimes I feel like people
Because
from
the
the
event was in the past, so the future could be, the
anytime.
present.
Sometimes
But
I have the feeling like people way in the future, after I'm no longer here, are looking at my session with intense focus, and I will sense them. That's why sometimes in my reports I clarify things. Like in this session, I had a light switch on the wall. Then I had a feeling people in the future don't know what a light switch is. So I wrote for them a clarification that it's this button on the wall, you press it to turn the lights on or off. Because in the future, I just felt someone future is gonna read this. They don't have that anymore. Anyway.
well, it's kind of you to clue the future people in.
Yeah. But anyways, this man, I saw him in the same office, the office that belongs to the officer who assembled bits. He was sitting on the chair by that desk. So he could have been from the target. But anyway, here's the conversation I have with him. I don't know, should I read it or?
Sure.
Okay.
And
So
is it really long?
no, not really.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so he starts, the Center of Intelligence wanted to talk with you. And this is the man with the pointy hat. That's not the center man. And this is also not the center of intelligence, man. This is the officer. So here he goes again. The center of intelligence wants to do some studies with you, if you do not mind. I hope you do not mind. I say to him, I'm in a remote viewing session, unless you're from the target. He says, I like chocolate taffy. I bet you know that. I mean, God, you pick up everything. With pick up, he means perceptions. I say, yeah, I tend to know what a person would like to eat. He says, what is your target? I say, I don't know yet. I don't have feedback yet. He says, would you like to know? I say, I will find out later today. He says, or someone says, we don't want you to feel well with this man because he could be an agent. And then the center of intelligence man says, we don't like spies. I say, I'm just doing a target. And the center of intelligence man says, yes, that's what we mean. And then he says, so you don't need to know what I like to eat or any of it. Interesting. So intelligence agent got
Did you
involved.
figure out what he likes to eat?
No, he told me he likes chocolate taffy, but he's using it kind of sarcastically because he's
Yeah,
irritated
yeah,
by
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
fact that I know things that I could even find out what he likes to eat, which is true. What I do is, if I have a human life form, if I gently brush my index fingertip across the forehead, I learn a lot of things about him or her. I could also pick up what they like to eat. So anyway, this intelligence man was aware of remote viewing, possibly. Unless again it was a simulation interaction. But definitely there is possibly center of intelligence involved at this facility. Maybe I found this man there, military as well as this. Totally a place where I shouldn't be snooping around, but I looked everywhere. I even read the papers and everything. Let's look at some of the technical detail of the structure because the target, this is all kind of, this is all about where the structure comes from and who built it. But I've also looked at the structure itself. We might like to know about the technical details. So where do we have where I am inspecting it? That might interest people. So here we go. I went to the man's office and I read some papers on his desk. It's not going to be word by word, but I can feel the information. And of course, the officer is there as always. He asked me, are you, so I'm trying to snoop around and read these papers. I'm trying to be stealth about it, but he finds me, of course. He says, are you looking for the filing cabinet? I say, I will find it. So I continue to read his papers on the desk. And I find airplane plans, model figurines. I see the picture on the paper on the desk. It is of a device that sure enough has the plank boards on top of it, like two side-by-side rectangular boards going to each of opposite sides from the top of the object. This, of course, turns out to be what our main object looks like. Modeling template. The structure on the paper on his desk, I mean, as a drawing on the paper, it seems, or a picture on the paper. Unless there's, so what that means is a modeling template. So it refers either to creating a small miniature version copy of our main Phoenix, presumably Phoenix light structure, or actual components of it. And then he starts yapping at me. We have some good data on the bottom of this session. Lots of wires, rotor blades. Let's see, I know I have some good stuff here. Papers in the bookshelf. This is in the weapons and missiles facility, in the office of the man who I think assembled it. How to mount and assemble, how to not lose any energy, which is interesting because I studied some physics and a little bit of thermodynamics at college. In all, especially in vehicles, it's one of the biggest, most important things is figuring out how to preserve energy, because we have, for instance, heat dissipation. For instance, a car loses a lot of the valuable expensive gas, fuel, in heat dissipation from friction with the tires against the ground, for instance. So how to not lose any energies, how to, this is a huge thing when you build vehicles. It's that kind of concept. And we read further, how to commit to equipment, novel designs, how to assemble pieces in a team, like a team of people. The focal point of our energy mass, how to connect this piece to that part, how to make them fuse together pieces, how to prevent manic meltdown, how to disconnect pieces again, how to prevent heat dissipation on mechanics, how to allow cool down, how to connect and assemble the rotor blades, how to prevent wetness on the lower parts, how to do good acclimatization, how to screw on things properly, how to put the rotor blades together properly. So that's the kind of manuals in his office. So in
So,
hindsight,
so
yeah.
I just think that's incredibly cool. The idea that you, Anita, can basically absorb through osmosis, well, the osmosis of your out of body self or whatever, this knowledge. Do you feel like you have absorbed it, or do you just kind of get a general idea of what the information is? Do you
Oh,
feel like you could
oh,
go out and build something based on this information?
I mean, if I had to, if someone forced me to, if I was locked up in a room and they said the only way you can get out of this room is to build this thing, the manual is on the other side of the room. Good luck. I would
But
sure
you
try
don't,
my damnedest.
if you were taking a test in school and you wanted to cheat by doing some remote viewing beforehand without studying, could you use remote viewing to just by osmosis absorb the information from your school book, instead of actually reading it? Just do a remote viewing session, touch it with your mind, and then the next day ace your test.
I doubt it. I would have to push a lot further than I ever bother with because this, as you can see, listen to this, how to connect this piece to that part. Clearly, I'm missing the specific, it doesn't say
Yeah, yeah,
this
just
to
kind of
that.
getting the general thrust of it.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Yes. I could see,
gotcha.
I could start to see like pipes and mechanics sketches in the manual, but it's really lacking the detail. I couldn't, I possibly could push further, but the investment of time and really hard work to actually extract finite detail is not worth it for this target.
All right, it's not worth it, kids. It's easier just to study. Don't
Yeah.
use RV to cheat.
But if the actual if a tasker told me we want to know exactly what what is this piece to that part and what do they look like and what are their names and everything, I could do it, but then I wouldn't have all the rest to look at. If I really put my mind, I possibly could get a lot more detail, but just like this, I'm just getting just the feeling of it. But
Okay.
also really good technical words I do get. And the further you should, I wouldn't do this kind of probing early in the session, because if you try to read papers when you are on this level, you might
Not
just
gonna
get,
happen.
huh?
It's not gonna
Yeah,
happen, right?
you might get something that's so vague and broad that it's kind of like it could say, I don't know, maybe I read this elaborate technical manual and all I get is how to do mechanics, not even how to connect parts. So you have to kind of get to this kind of finer detail. And this isn't finished either. This isn't good either. It could go much further in details. I mean, this isn't really good. This is good, but it's also not finished. There's so because I haven't probed every little corner of everything. But yeah. So the main object has, like I said, it has to avoid water because the acclimatization fuse breaks if water gets on it. We're almost going to finish here. It has robotic. Okay, listen to this is interesting. In hindsight, you said that a lot of people were outside looking at the comet. So there's a huge audience outside. Look at this.
all over the
I
city.
want you to read this. Read the blue part. Can you see it? I can make it bigger for
All
you.
right, yeah, I can read it. Function of main object. It has to avoid wetness. Rainwater can kill it. The acclimatization
Acclimatization.
Acclimatization. Okay, there you go. If I hear you say it, I can say it. Okay. Acclimatization. The acclimatization fuse breaks if rainwater gets on it. It has to be hung up on something. The main object has to be hung up or mounted on something else. It feeds information through channels. It goes into cities and travels there in cities. I saw the city with a modern black wide building with many floors. It is brought out sometimes for public display. It has robotic parts inside. Encap in what is it?
Encaptivates.
Oh, encaptivates.
Encaptivates.
You're okay. You're encaptivated. Okay. Encaptivates an audience of people. I
That's
know that word.
interesting.
I know that
Yeah.
word.
Say that's interesting in hindsight with what you said. So this was brought out, um, yeah, for to be looked at by an audience for public display. That's kind of what we had with the Phoenix Lights, right? So the main object encaptivates an audience. Now I'm probing that phrase to see what is that? What does that mean?
Well, it definitely encaptivated the city of Phoenix.
Yeah. So here I'm probing that specific sentence, and I get it sends a beam of light that other people can see. The main object has an operating theater inside. Specifically, the element that shows is an orange sphere element. Inside is operating theater, da da da. Yeah, so that's interesting. So what else? So the operating theater inside of the main structure, which I really think is at least a part of the Phoenix Lights, it has a huge room which spans 2 floors, which RV wanted to call an operating theater. And there was always music playing there. And now the word operating theater made me think, especially since I thought it seems I have a UFO. I was thinking, okay, is it maybe aliens with their medical laboratory inside a UFO? So I took extra effort to take a look at this room. First of all, I never saw any aliens or alien technology or alien mechanics or science. This is all very human, very basic tech, sort of. Um, I didn't find any medical equipment or surgical tables. So, what exactly operating theater meant, I'm not sure what RV meant by that. Because it's like someone else tells me, remote viewing gives me these words. It's like another person giving me words. So, I don't choose to call it operating theater. That's what something else tells me to call it. But anyway, so the inside of this big, so inside of the thing, which I think is part of the Phoenix Lights, there was this big room, at least the operating theater, and the floor under it was, or just the rotor blades. It has rotor blades under the floor that are spinning around, and and so I'm looking at this operating theater, trying to find objects to explain to me what's the function of this room and what's in it. I find several buckets, or actually barrels, and they are filled with something that registers as ricin, meaning registers as reminds me of, doesn't have to be exactly the chemical ricin. Ricin is an
Yeah, that's some
extremely
nasty stuff.
toxic, huh?
Yeah, that's some nasty stuff.
Yes, so ricin doesn't have to be ricin, but the word suggests a very harmful toxic substance. So I start looking at the ricin function of the ricin in the barrels in the operating theater. Obliterate enemies. Put ricin in enemies' eyes. Hotness, it desiccates. desiccation, that's something that some chemicals do. I don't remember what it does. I think pulls out the liquid or something.
It
Desiccator.
dries you out. That's what that means.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
A functionality disorder. Then I ask, why do they have ricin and barrels in the operating theater? And this is inside the craft, the main structure. To put it on a person, to make an enemy weak, to make the enemy fall apart. So that's interesting again, because this structure was coming from a weapons and missiles facility. We also had the mind control technology earlier.
Yeah, that's some spooky stuff.
Yeah. So,
And I don't doubt there are people working on stuff like that.
of course, yeah.
Mm.
So this here's the only one, I think the one mention where I saw that this object was flying in the sky. It was a very clear visual. So I have it right there. And I mean, I have things like a small red fire extinguisher against the wall. Aliens wouldn't have that. There's just no, we really
Hey, you
have to
don't
look.
know. They got fires too.
Do they have one of those little red
They have
fire?
exactly the same sorts of fire extinguishers we do. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we really have to let go of the thought that this would, at least going by my session, that this would be a alien thing. There was no aliens.
I thought I could finally trick you into giving me some aliens.
Oh, I've had plenty of aliens. Like I say this every time we do this. I did have a target, a tasker sent me to the Zeta Reticuli stars, which is supposedly where the grays come from. And the tasking was to look for any planets and life. And I found aliens, no
Yeah.
problem, real ones.
I remember you told us about that, and
Yeah.
also I remember in our own tasking, when you know the Nazca mummy tasking.
Mm,
I mean that wasn't the tasking, but that's where it went.
mm,
And you were getting some really interesting communications with the Nazca mummies, with the beings
yeah.
when they were alive. It was amazing.
Yeah. So here I see the device on the ground on the meadow, like I said before. Uh, the device is small and has a blue-gray color. That's the thing that's initially orange, but that's the orange is the blur color. And it has the V-shaped two legs of a dark brown color. So this V-shape I do have in the report, this V-shape at or part of our main structure, and I've also drawn it. So I really think it's highly likely that I was on target. Also, I've seen it flying, and I have a guy who built it, assembled it,
Well,
and
you were
it's
repeatedly getting the V shape, so
yeah,
you were definitely zoning in or tuning in on the target or something.
yeah, and the guy who built it, he has
And the
manuals
guy that
about
built it,
aerodynamics and things, and
and you had somebody from the CIA or somewhere trying to scare you away.
kind of or just expressing his
If the
vision.
other guy didn't hire you first as a file clerk.
Yeah, he tried. He tried. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Tell us more about it. I am going to Google Phoenix Mountains because you said you were seeing mountains, and I want to say there
Black
were some.
mountains, lots of them.
Yeah, I want to say there's some mountains. Yeah. The Phoenix Mountains are a mountain range located in central Phoenix, Arizona. With the exception of Mummy Mountain, there is a
Oh,
Mummy Mountain, guys. Uh, they are part of the Phoenix Mountain Preserve. They serve as the municipal park and offer hiking mountain. Yeah, so that's what I thought because I remember that the Phoenix lights came from over the mountains is my memory. The so you were getting the mountains,
yeah.
and oh, well, let me go back to that. Just pictures of Phoenix since you were getting, um,
I had like a big city with skyscrapers,
yeah, and you
and
were
it
getting
flew there.
greenery, and yeah, Phoenix looks pretty green. Yeah,
Really?
which is my memory too. I mean, I think it's mixed.
Does
It's
it,
mixed, but there is green. There
does
is
it have
green.
leafy trees or just cactus?
It's got trees. It's got cactus,
Really?
but it's got trees.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
sand or grass on the ground?
I think it's probably mixed.
Okay.
But yeah, there are trees. There
All
are
right.
trees. There is greenery.
I'll
And
look at pictures and see if I feel like I
and
was there.
there is
Otherwise,
grass. I mean, it's kind of scrubby, deserty grass, and there is,
yeah.
deserty kind of stuff. So,
Mm,
it's not like, the Amazon, but, there is some green there, and there are mountains.
yeah. I can also say that sometimes remote viewers like to say, as they're working a blind target, they don't know what they have, but sometimes they like to say, what does this target remind me of? Kind of like, what do I think it is? But kind of like, if I had to guess. So this one reminded me of Bob Lazar a lot.
Hmm,
I had the feeling like if this was Bob Lazar target, I would not be surprised. This man, because I have this engineer type, even though he's also a military officer, with his craft and UFO sensations, really reminded me of Bob Lazar. Even though,
interesting.
even though I don't
Interesting.
think Bob Lazar is a military officer, this my guy was, reminded me of him very much because of how he talks about UFO. So what is Bob Lazar? He's the guy who talks about UFO designs and how the military has this flying craft. So,
Yeah,
so
he claims to have worked at Area 51.
yeah. So the fact that I'm getting a strong reminds me of Bob Lazar. It kind of gives you an idea of what I think I have here before I know what it is. And another thing it reminded me of was Area 51, or at least the myth or legend of Area 51. What is Area 51? It's a secret military base, which does where ordinary people don't have access, and presumably they deal with some kind of research and weaponry or UFOs. So Bob Lazar in Area 51 is that tells you what I had, what I felt like this was in my hands, and also UFO. I was thinking Billy Meyer UFO and just these associations. Yeah, so in summary, no aliens. I think I was on target, even though this one's a little bit, it kind of chose to go to who built it, is the main focus of this one. Who built it? How was it built? And to show me it's not aliens, it's a human building. And really strong emphasis telling us that it's coming from a weapons facility, a military weapons facility, weapons and missiles facility, this thing with mind control technology inside this flying craft, as well as the rise in the some kind of chemical uh, weapon which could be used on enemies, as well as we saw when we combed through the report, this concept of bringing this out to show it to the public. So that's what I have. That's kind of cool. So this could be a weapon from the military. The only thing that remains a question. Okay, so why did they bring it out? My session says it was brought out for the public to see. So they wanted people to see it. Why? Were they were they using the mind control, testing it on people? The mind control technology that is in there? I don't know. However, the only question that I want to know, who's military? Is it USA? Then it would kind of hopefully be okay, unless they're testing mind control on their own people. Not nice. Were
I
they
hope.
testing? We don't know yet, but they have the tech in there. Um, is it? I would like to know from the viewers, from the hat of the military man, does it look like USA military, and what branch and what rank? Or is it from another country? I kind of hope it's a USA military, because the thought of some other country building this thing, which is mind control tech and chemical weapons, coming in when American citizens are outside looking at a comet flying over this American public, that would be really bad. That's a big threat. That's a really big bold move to do something like that. However, if it's just a USA military, it's kind of should be okay because it's anyway.
Well,
However,
okay, but
kind of okay, not as scary. I mean, they
no,
wouldn't
better
kill.
better than Russia. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
they wouldn't just suddenly destroy a huge amount of American citizens. I mean,
You would
why
hope.
would they? It's their own people. I think, I don't know if I can believe the stories, but we've seen examples. There's allegations that the US military have done really nasty experiments on their own people in the past, like
Well, I mean,
MK Ultra, mind
MK
control,
Ultra, yeah.
all these bad things. So we don't know. Would the American military test a weapon on their own people? Just a little fraction. You guys have like how many millions of people? Would they use it on 10,000
You
people?
can spare a few million.
Yeah, like would they
Uh,
use it on 10,000 American citizens who are maybe easier to keep an eye on to see how they reacted to an experimental weapon? We don't know. I don't know, but this is where my thoughts are going on the Phoenix Lights, and this is kind of nasty. It's kind of
well,
scary. I would have rather had aliens, to be honest.
yeah, me too. Me too. Well, I think your remote viewing session was amazing. You were getting mountains, you were getting the trees, you were getting the delta-shaped object. You got 16 pages of amazing information. Thank you, Nita, for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sending me there. It's really cool. I had so much fun snooping around the military facility, which
And you
was,
know that if you can always get a job as a file clerk, if
yes,
if all
yes,
goes, if you have to,
yes.
just travel back into the 90s and
I have to say, there was a time when this man got really angry at me, this officer, and he grabbed me by the ear and just pulled me away from there. He was yelling at me. And several times he raises his hand like this because he gets so angry with me. He raises his hand like, I'm gonna hit you. He was intense, but I like him. I miss him now. I kind of want to go back.
okay, well, say hello for me if you do.
Yeah, I swear that could be a real guy somewhere. Maybe he's watching this, who knows? Because maybe
Hey,
he watches all the Phoenix Lights videos because maybe he knows he was part of it. So if he sees this, then contact me and I'll do your paperwork. I'll sort your
all right,
papers by 12
there you
o'clock.
go.
I'll have them finished by 12 o'clock.
I like it. She'll have it finished by 12. No, man. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, okay. So just to let you know, Cosmic Roadies, that this is going to be our Anita and I's final remote viewing session for the moment. This brings us up to, I think,
Eight,
10.
eight.
Uh,
This was number 8.
this was number 8. Okay. Okay. Well, even number. There you go. But we are hoping to resume this at some point in the future. So please give Anita a big thumbs up, share this video, get it 1,000 likes and follows, and go to her channel also and see her amazing work there. Please tell everybody your channel name and where to find you.
Okay. So I will of course continue remote viewing so you will be able to find more RV projects of all kinds on my channel. Um, it's called Elements Empathic Cognizance. It's really hard to spell, but I think Jack always puts a link under the video description.
I
So you can
will absolutely. You have an amazing channel and you do such amazing work with your viewing information and your brilliant videos. Very entertaining and colorful and just really enjoyable. And I really, really appreciate what you do. And I hope to have you back on very soon.
anytime, just let me know if you have a target, if you want to send me somewhere. I'll take a look and go snoop around with RV. Thank you, Jack, for this amazing RV series. I've had so much fun with you.
Yeah, me
So,
too. Me too. I'll never forget the friction makers and all the wild stuff you've exposed me to. Oh, and your actual communication with the Nazca beings.
yeah.
That was legendary. That was amazing. I mean, you actually communicated with the Nazca beings. That was crazy. That was crazy, Anita. I
Yeah.
love it. And now we find out that the Phoenix Lights may have been a government project related to weapons and mind control and who knows what? Who knows what, guys? So I really appreciate it. So everybody go check out Anita's channel and give her a big thumbs up and a thank you in the comment section. And I guess that's it for this series of remote viewing. So thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you, Jack. It's been amazing. I had so much fun.
All right, guys, this is it from
Bye
Jack and Anita.
bye.
Bye, guys.
That
All
was
right.
fun. Thank you so much for all these targets, But yeah.
Well, no problem. Let's see. Are you still recording? Uh,
Yes.
did you have anything else to share? Anything exciting happen afterward?
No, from this one, no, nothing.
Okay, well, it's probably for the best. You don't want any
Yeah.
weird shadow being showing up
No,
again. That was
no.
creepy. That was creepy. All right,
Yeah.
well, Anita, I really appreciate all this. This has been really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Jack. I really had a great time with you.
Well, me
Yeah.
too. Me too. And I hope No Man was watching and he gets in touch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't it be cool if he recognizes himself from my session? It's like, that was me in my office. You never know.
It could happen. It could happen. I mean, such things are possible, right?
Yeah. It's just funny how we're doing this UFO alien mystery series we've done. Almost always, the RV has been able to debunk or falsify many of these. Like does like well, the first UFO, the Tic Tac, uh, it could have it was a really weird technology
That was a weird one.
that could be something mystical. But this one, I think humans. But
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I love it. I love it. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you soon.
yeah,
Uh,
I'll keep watching your channel. It's really great.